This is the last episode in terms of implementing features on this particular course, and what we will do is to add a location filter. So I feel like the location filter is the most crucial one, because people will want to see which hotels are available at a certain city and so on. So here you can minimize everything at components. So here I'll say location filter dot tsx stateless functional component, and we go ahead and say location filter. Very nice. Right here we add a div, so we can save this file. Actually, we go to app folder, layout, and just after our navbar we can have our location filter component right here. We save and we come back right here. We can make this to be a container. Make sure it's from stroke container. Also, this will be a client component, so use client like that. Very nice. Then right here we will be having a div, and we can add some styles. So I'll say class name, we will flex gap of 2, md will say gap of 4, then items will be at the center. We will justify center, and we'll say text to be small. I'll say div. We will include one of the selector. Let's start with country, then we will be able to reuse it at other places. So we'll say here select. This will come from UI select, just like that. So we will not include any form or anything, we just have this select like this. Okay, we can add some state. Actually, for when we select a country, we want to save that in a state. So right here let's have const, I'll say country, and set country. This will be equal to use state, and by default this will be empty. We will be duplicating this. We will be having here, instead of country, we'll be having the state, and here I'll say state. Also right here, instead of this, we'll be having city, and right here we will be having set city. So we have those piece of states which will help us to work with our select here. So the first thing for this select is to pass an on change. I'll say the value will be our country, so it's a controlled select here, and we'll say on value change. So we invoke right here an arrow function. We will have a value, then we will return. I can remove the curly brackets, and I'll say set country, and we invoke that, we pass the value. Okay, very nice. So if I save, it's auto formatted. So we pass those two at our select. Then right here let's have a select trigger. So we'll say select trigger, just like that, and we'll add a class name. We'll say bg is background, and right here I'll use a tab, and I'll say select value, just like that. I'll add a placeholder, and I'll say the placeholder will be country. Right here we'll say select content. We need first to have the list of countries. So here we'll say const, we will destructure the various functions from our use location hook. So use location, we invoke that. Right here we will get all the countries. We will get country states, and we'll get state cities, const countries will be equal to get all countries, and we invoke that. So here we'll get all our countries and we can list them here. So right here we'll say countries dot map, we invoke that, we pass an arrow function right here, and we'll be able to return something. Right here we will get a country at a time, just like that. Then in here we will return, what do we return? The select item component from UI select. And did we bring the select trigger from UI select? Yes, very nice. Okay, now right here we will do like that. It expects us to have several props. First of all, we should add a key, and we'll say the key is country dot ISO code. Then right here we should pass a value, and the value will be country dot ISO code. Then inside our select right here we will show the country name. Very nice. I save, and now we should be having a selector for the country. Let's see, is it updating? Yeah, it actually updated, and the styling is so weird. What did we miss? So I made a mess. I imported all these from radix instead from UI select. So make sure you don't import from there. That's why everything looks weird. And make sure you import from here. So I remove this one and I save. It should look nice. It should look very nice. And there we go. And when I select, you see, it should look very nice. Okay, very nice. So we will list now another one at the side here for state and another one for city. So that now will be simple, because I just need to take this div, then say Alt Shift bottom arrow, I duplicate twice. So we customize the first one. The value will be state, then set state. Very nice. Now right here we say this is state, and right here we should now get a list of all our states in the selected country. Right here we will say const states set states to be equal to use state. We invoke that and we pass an empty array. We can add a type right here, and we say this will be of type I state. Make sure to bring that from country, state, city. We also say that this is an array. Okay, I come here, I say const cities set cities, and then here to be equal to use state, and right here I say I city, and right here we include that and we invoke use state and we pass that array as our default. Okay, very cool. Now we work on some use effects that will update these two. I'll do that after we get all our countries, because we'll need to use that. So right here I'll say use effect, we invoke that, we pass an arrow function, the normal syntax, and we'll be having some dependency array. For getting the states, we'll only need the country. So we pass the country that will be selected. Then right here we will say const country states will be equal to get country states. We invoke that and we say country. Very nice. Then in here we'll go ahead and we'll say if we have our country states, we update our states by saying set state to be our country states. Okay. This is set states, not set state. Set states. If we happen to change the country and we update the states, we will reset the selected state, and also we will reset the selected not country, but the selected city. So set city to be an empty string. So what we have done here, when country changes, that means that even the selected state and city will not be for that particular country. Therefore, we reset those and we will have new set of states and another new set of cities. So I hope that makes sense. Now right here, I'll say use effect again, or I can just duplicate this one and avoid typing too much. So I duplicate that one. And now here we will pass the country and the state. Now this will be for the city. Here we will say get state cities, and here we will pass the country and the state. And here these are the dependencies, that is what changes. Okay, now here we will get the state cities, and I can copy that one and I can use it here and here. So we will set the cities. I'll pass that right here and I'll say set cities. And if we change country and state, that means that the list of cities changes, and therefore we'll also reset the selected city. So we remove the state there. Okay, I save. Now that will update our list of states and our list of cities. We can come now down here and complete this implementation of our UI. So this was for state. We go to select content. We'll first perform a check and we'll say state.length and end. Then right here say states.map. So this will make sure that we have some states before we try to map through them. So right here we will get a state at a time. Then for the key we will say state.isocode. For the value we will say state.isocode again, and then here we will show the state.name. We come down here for the country, not the country but for the city. So here to begin with we will set the city to that value. We say the value here is city. We come here, we say this is city. Then we come to select content, and now we will map through the cities. First of all, we make sure that cities exist. So right here I'll have our cities.length, and then we say end cities.map, and we will get a city at a time. Now we'll take that city, and right here we will say the key is city dot name, value is city.name. Let me copy it. So value is that. Then also what we display the city.name. We save, we go back. If we select a city, I'll select Kenya, my country. Then you'll see now the state. Oops, okay, for some reason that fixed it. So all I did is to add this check like this. For some reason it fixed it. Okay, so if we select Mandera, we get Mandera. So we'll be having another use effect. This one will depend on our country, it will depend on the state, it will depend on the city. Okay, then in here, first of all, we'll check if our country is an empty string, and if our state is also an empty string. I'll go ahead and also check for the city. If our city is also an empty string, we will immediately return router.push. Is router not defined? Router.push, we invoke it and we pass it to be at our home. Let's define the router. I'll say const router will be equal to use router. Make sure it's coming from next navigation. Now right here, I'll say let current query be equal to an empty object. This will be of type any, so I'll say any. We will perform a check. We'll say if params, which is actually not defined. So let's define it. That is actually the search params. So after our router, I'll say const params will be equal to use search params, and I invoke it. So if we have params, we will go ahead and update our current query. So here I'll say our current query will now be equal to, let's bring in the query string. So right here I'll say import qs from query string. Then we come back. Now right here we will make use of the qs to pass the params. So right here I'll say qs dot pass. We invoke that and we pass params dot to string and we invoke that. So now here we will be having our current query. So that can be title is equals to something, or city is equals to something, and so on. We'll say if we have a country, we will go ahead and update our current query. We will go ahead and say that the current query is equal to, we spread the existing current query and we add our country. We'll do a similar thing for the state and for the city. So I'll duplicate that twice. We'll check if we have the state, and if we do, we update the state. Here we check if we have the city. If we do, we add the city to our current query, just like that. We'll say if our state is empty and we actually have a current query dot state, what we will do, we will delete it. So we will delete our current query dot state. Okay, and also we'll do the same for the city. We will do the same for the city. So if we have a city as empty and our current query dot city exists, we'll go ahead and delete the city from the query. Now this situation might happen when we come here and we change the country. So when we change the country to say India, this state and this city will be empty, but our query will still be having their values. So if we change and we check these and these are empty, we delete them from the query. Okay, and I hope that makes sense. So we delete the city. Okay, very nice. Now the last step is to actually update our URL. So let's first create the URL. We'll say const URL will be equal to, we say qs like that dot stringify URL, and we invoke that. We pass an object here. We say URL is that. Then comma, we'll say query full colon. We say current query like that. Then right here, I use a comma and I'll say skip null like that, and I say true. I use a comma, skip empty string, and I say true. The same thing we did when implementing search. Now right here we just say router.push and we say URL. And I hope every step makes sense. So here we are updating each of them at a time. If we have country, we update only the country. If we have state, we update the state. So that code is straightforward. Then I told you what we are doing here. If they are empty, if we change the country, these will be empty. So we make sure we also delete them from the query. Then right here, we construct the URL using the current query. The current query will actually now be updated because we are updating it each time right here, and then we push to that URL. So we can test these. We have country here. We select country. I'll say Kenya. That should filter down the hotels that are in Kenya only. And you can see this is in Kenya, this is in Kenya. And look at our URL. We added this search param. Country is equals Kenya. Very nice. And if we added something here as forest, that will be combined in our URL. And look, we added and title is forest. So we just get only those hotels that are in Kenya and their name have forest. So I remove that, and then the title, since it's null, it will be removed. Then we select a state. Let's filter down those that are in Mombasa. So if I type MO, I click on Mombasa, then we should filter down only those hotels that are in Mombasa. And if we check here, we have country KE and state 28. If we say here it's Mombasa, the city, then the city will also be added right here at our query. Very nice. If we happen to select a different country like Israel, what will happen? The state and the city will be deleted. They will be deleted from the query right here. They will be deleted. Once they are deleted, we only fetch now depending on the country. Now you can also add right here for something to clear the filters, but if you just press on home, that would also clear the filters. So a button that takes you to home would clear the filters. I don't know if we need to add that. It's pretty easy to do. But for completeness, let's just add it, because why not? And this is the last thing that we will do. So we'll say button, and we'll say clear filters. Then right here, we bring in the button from UI button. Then we will add on click event. Then right here, we will invoke this, and I'll say handle clear. Another thing before we implement that one, we'll say the variant. Variant is outtime. Then we go at the top before our return statement, and we will say const handle clear. This will be an arrow function, and what we will do here, we'll just say router.push, and we will push to home. Then right here we can say set country, and we will set that to be empty. We will set state to be empty, and we will set city to be empty. And now that button should clear the state. The only issue is that it will not clear the search input because we need to be like in that particular component for us to do that. When I click on clear filter, it will remove everything here, and also it will remove our values. So if I click, we clear like that. So if I select Afghanistan and clear. Very nice. And the next thing that we will do is to deploy our application to Vercel.